Hey guys, how's it going? All right, another little piece about Crump, and this is relatively new. It was posted by Dr. Controversy. This starts at about 6 minutes and 25 seconds into his video, and I'm going to go ahead and play it, and I want to talk about it.
Describe for us what she told you that she heard at that moment of confrontation.
Yes, very simple. As we stated before, she said that the other person says, "What are you doing here?" And Trayvon says, "Why are you following me?"
All right, so remembering that this guy's a lawyer and that he's required under Florida law and under the rules of the Bar Association to tell the truth in public concerning any case, especially a case that's ongoing. And he just said what he was asked, and he was telling the reenactment of what happened according to Deedee, or Trayvon's supposed girlfriend. But unfortunately, he exactly reversed the statements because he's trying to make it sound like Trayvon was confronted. So in order to do that, you would want the person who's doing the confrontation to be the first one to speak. But, we know the facts of the case, and the facts are that Trayvon spoke first, not George. But he just said that Trayvon was asked by George first. So I want to rehear this one more time.
Simple as we stated before, she said that the other person says, "What are you doing here?" And Trayvon says, "Why are you following me?"
And that's not what happened. We know that according to her, George was confronted by Trayvon because Trayvon first said, "Why are you following me?" And then George said, "What are you doing around here?" So according to Deedee, it was exactly the opposite of what this guy just said. He's saying here that George spoke first, and that is a lie. It is not just a misrepresentation. It is a lie.
And then, she hears struggling ensues, and then the phone go dead.
And, of course, she doesn't say that a struggle ensues. She didn't hear a struggle ensue. She said she thought she heard somebody push or something like that. Where's the struggle? And he's just making, he's making the story sound the way he wants it to sound rather than actually giving the facts.
And that's been pretty consistent. And based on when you listen to that, and the jury will get to hear her testify, and that's all Trayvon parents have asked for is a fair trial. They haven't went and tried to take the law into their own hands, and that's very important. But when a witness hears that, they get to then add up all the facts and all the dots, says is it objective or not. Is it consistent with him pursuing Trayvon, like we heard on the 911 tape? Is that consistent with what a common sense person would ask, "Why are you following me?" And I think they're going to conclude that is right, that George Zimmerman pursued Trayvon Martin. And once they conclude that, then George Zimmerman does not get the benefit of the stand your ground law.
And again, maybe he's lying, maybe he's just misinformed. I can't imagine a lawyer being misinformed. But under the Florida statute, the immunity statute, yes, indeed, a person that starts a fight, you can walk up to a person, beat the crap out of them. They turn the fight around and start beating you. You ask to stop. Please stop. Please, please stop. And other people hear that you're asking for help. Help, help. And you can't get away from that person. Then you have the right to use deadly force. And you get the benefit of the law. Even the aggressor. Look up the law, Mr. Crump. Look in the Florida statute. It's very short. It's just about a page long. You can read the whole thing in just probably, even for you could probably read it in a minute.
So important because the stand your ground law is sending the wrong message out. We've now seen the deaths of Ernest Hoskins and Jordan Davis.
So now it's pretty clear that he's not just concerned with the case, he's concerned with the law. And I think he's being paid to do that. He's trying to tear down the law. It's not going to happen. the task force that these people have already pushed into place are against any changes. So if there were a change to be made, it would be a change that would strengthen the law, and if a prosecutor did what's happening to George in the future, then that prosecutor would lose their job and pay huge fines and maybe even spend some time in prison.
And this is so crucial, this case, about where we go from here as a society in America. Is it going to be equal justice, or can people kill certain people and not be held accountable?
Of course, that was a racist statement. He's suggesting that white people are allowed to kill black people and not be held accountable, which is the most ridiculous statement ever. Of course, a lot of the people that support Trayvon agree with that statement because that's why they are supportive of this case. If you just take the races out of the case, it would confuse them. They wouldn't know who to support. They would have no idea because they're not interested in the facts of the case or the law or anything like that. They're just interested in this thought that somehow or another a black kid was murdered by a white guy. The idea, it's black and white.
Ben, I have time for one more question here, and I don't want to lose the signal again. You have told us here today that the original recording of the first interview of Trayvon's girlfriend, you've given that to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Prior to giving it to them, did you or anyone in your office or anyone who had possession of it edit that recording, manipulate that recording, do anything to that recording? And in what form was it given to FDLE?
So the question is very clear. There's two parts to the question. Did you edit it or manipulate that recording in any way? Number one. Number two, how was it created? What did what kind of mechanism was it recorded on? In what way was it recorded? So these are the two things that he's asking. But Crump won't answer them because these are very important questions that go right to the heart of her entire statement. Everything that she had to say, whether she was led around or whether they just doctored the tape after this statement was recorded, we don't know. We can't get to that point until it's all passed, all the information's handed over. And he's the guy that's got it. All he has to do is hand it over, but he's not going to. He's going to ignore everything that was just asked. Let's listen to the question again and see if we can get the answer.
Prior to giving it to them, did you or anyone in your office or anyone who had possession of it edit that recording, manipulate that recording, do anything to that recording? And in what form was it given to FDLE?
It was given, remember, and I want to be clear about this, when we're trying to record this device.
You see, immediately he said that he was going to answer the question, in what form was it given? In what form was it given? Was it a cassette tape? Was it a CD recording onto a computer? Did they have what kind of recording device did you use, basically, and how did you hand it over to the Florida Department of Law or Florida Department of Law Enforcement? We'd like to know that. But he's about ready to tell us, and then he's like, oh, no, I'm going to tell you something else.
DLE.
It was given, remember, and I want to be clear about this, when we're trying to record this device, when we're trying to record this conversation, we're gathered by our phone. She's on a cell phone. We're on a phone trying to get this recording. So it's a bad recording. We keep stopping.
He didn't ask about the recording being bad. He didn't. That wasn't the question. Had nothing to do with that. But that's not, because he's trying to obscure the real question.
We go back and we try to re-record and stuff. So we know it's not a good recording. However,
so they go back and try to re-record is what he just said. So obviously they're already busted. They're busted.
Then we go back and we try to re-record and stuff. So we know it's not a good record.
So he's saying they tried to re-record after the fact. So obviously it has been doctored, and they know it, and they've been busted. So now it's going to come down to if that document, if that recording was indeed doctored in some way, or her testimony messed around with in some way, everything she has to say will fall into question, and we may not even get to hear from her. Although I would think it would be fantastic to bring her on the stand, because she just falls all apart. Even in their controlled deposition, they completely just fall apart. I mean, I can tear apart that deposition just by listening to the recording, and I do. You can go back and look, just search Poker Face Todd Deedee, or Poker Face, yeah, that's it. Poker Face Todd Deedee. That's all you got to do. I've got 3 sections. The best one is the third one. It's got the majority of the mistakes that she made and the leading questions. So take a listen.
However, there are people who try to get this recording right. We made her available once her name.
So he said it again. We had people that tried to get this recording right. What? What were they doing?
Everybody had a right to go interview her, the Justice Department, State Attorney, all that stuff.
Yeah, but the defense didn't. So everybody that was against George had a right, but nobody that was for George had a right.
It's not like they can say that we manipulated her in any way or anything like that. We didn't know this young lady.
Oh, we've proven that you manipulated her. Not only you, but the Florida Department of Law manipulated her. And all the investigators, when you sit and listen to the conversations where they take her deposition, it's very clear that they led her along. They didn't just ask her, okay, tell us what happened. If you listen to all the depositions, every single one where they're just inviting people to come and tell the story, the first thing they do is say, okay, tell us the story. And the person tells the entire story front to end, and then when they're all done, then they get questions asked of them. But in her case, and only her case, she is led through it step by step as the investigator asks her, okay, did this happen? Okay, did that happen? And as soon as she answers, he says, okay, like, don't say another word. Once she said the thing that he leads her to say certain words, key words that he wants her to say. And until she says them, he keeps digging and digging until she actually says those words. So, you can go back and listen to my tapes. They're a little long, but it's definitely worth it if you want to know about her testimony.
I talked to this young lady once in my life, Vinny, and that is it. And so she's just going to say what he said on the phone. Their phone records are objective. We have the 911 tape is objective. The most important witness in this case is George Zimmerman. Inconsistent versions and contradictions. All the witnesses are important because they help us connect the dots. But it's George Zimmerman's testimony that...
George Zimmerman's testimony has been steady throughout the entire case. In fact, he really hasn't changed anything. Once in a while, they'll say, now, how did this happen like this? And he might be like, well, I can't remember if it was this way or did I fall that way. I can't remember. But that's not a problem at all. There is no deception. Nowhere does it look like he's being led by anybody or that he's leading them or lying. And remember, he took 2 lie detector tests, 2 voice lie detector tests that are the newest technology we have. In fact, we've tried, not me myself, but the legal community has tried without success to fool this system of voice, and they can't. Even people that in the past have been able to fool the old style lie detector can't fool this one. So if he's depending on George's testimony to hang George, he's really screwed. But again, he's completely ignored the question. He's gone on past, and his plan is to not answer the 2 questions that were asked of him. What form was the recording in the beginning? What did they record it on? And was it ever manipulated? Well, I guess he did say it was manipulated because he kept saying, he said it twice, that they kept trying to get the tape right. They kept trying to fix the tape because it was such a bad recording. They kept trying to fix it. So, of course, George's team's asking for the original and the fixed document. So you can give us both. We want to hear the original and then the ones that you fixed, and see if we can see if there's any change. And we'll see if that comes out. But to me, my personal opinion is Crump is fried. He is toast. Hopefully, he'll get a lot more than just losing his lawyer's license. I think he should spend some time in prison for this. You know, when you start manipulating our system and causing people to possibly spend the rest of their life in prison wrongly and knowingly do such a thing, spinning and twisting the facts, ruining his life so that even if he gets acquitted, you know that it's going to ruin his life forever because there's no way he's going to be able to walk the streets. To me, that's the same thing as a murder. I mean, if you take away a man's life and you're taking away his freedom, you're taking away his life, then you should be treated the same as a murderer. And that goes for corporations. You know, now they say that corporations are people. Well, you know, if that's true, then we should lock NBC up. NBC should be spending about 50 to 75 years in prison. I don't know how they're going to get all of them into one prison, but that's what, you know, NBC is a corporation and corporations are people, so lock them up. I never understood how it is that corporations get away with a slap on the wrist or having to pay a fine. The rest of us go to prison. I mean, if we don't pay our taxes, or even if we make a little mistake, the government assumes that it's some sort of a obvious attempt to defraud them of their rightfully earned money, that they're going to lock us up. But if a corporation does it, no big deal. I mean, remember BP just spilled enough oil in the Gulf of Mexico to run Florida for months. And what did we get for it? Nothing. Florida just got a lot of smelly oil floating around. BP got a fine. Wonderful. So all they do is they work that into their budget. Anyhow, I'm getting a little bit long. Good talking to you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.